So at this point, we've established why it's so important to understand the problem that matters from the customer point of view. The question now is how? How do we do this? But first, let's revisit where we are in the iterative customer discovery process. So in phase 1, you begin by stating your hypotheses or assumptions. What do you believe are the major problems and needs of the customer, and what do you believe will be the key elements and features of a solution that will be better than the current alternatives? But these are assumptions and beliefs. They are not yet facts. So in phase 2, we have to get out of the building and go interview real customers to understand what they truly believe about the problem. We don't want to focus on the solution yet. We want to make sure that we define and validate the problem from the customer point of view. Now, it's very, very common to have a number of reservations about getting out of your lab or your office or your garage and going and talking to customers. We hear this all the time. Here are 3 of the common hesitations that we encounter a lot. The first is, I can't go talk to people because my intellectual property will be disclosed or my idea will be stolen. That's an interesting concern, but not really valid here because this isn't about your idea, this isn't about your solution. This is about understanding the customer problem. You aren't here to show and tell, you're going out of the building to really understand how the customer is doing their job today and what pains and gains they're experiencing. We also hear, it's too early, I don't have all the answers yet. Well, it's not too early because you want to get out there early and learn from the customer perspective, and you don't want to have answers, you want to have good questions. The key is to go out and get curious and ask good questions of the customer to understand the problem, not to know yet exactly what the solution has to look like. And then last but not least, really hear this, I don't know how to do this. It's a little intimidating. That's natural and normal. There is no one-size-fits-all script for this, but we do have some common guiding principles that we want to share. So first of all, why are you going out and doing problem interviews? Its purpose is to develop and test your understanding of the customer's problem. What specifically is the problem from their perspective? What are the most important pains in that process, and who has the most pains of those different customer roles? Who has the greatest level of pain, and how are they doing it today? You need to know what the alternatives are if you're going to define and refine a differentiated solution. The goal is to develop insights, new insights into customer needs and their current way of operating. It's not to have them tell you what the solution should be or show what you think the solution should be. This is about the customer problem and customer needs. You're going to have to talk to a lot of people to formulate, test, and refine your hypotheses. It's an iterative process. Now, I'm going to suggest you want to start at increments of 10. Go talk to 10, pause. What patterns, if any, do you see, and how do you need to adjust your next set of interviews? But you want to interview and talk to a lot of customers until you start to see clear recurring themes. Can't predict exactly how many customers, but the more the better, because then you have more confidence in the themes you're seeing. Here are the key goals when you go out for your customer interviews, for problem interviews in particular. You want to identify the must-have problem. Of all the things you could do that the customer might appreciate, what are the ones that really matter, the must-have? You want to identify who in those customer roles and stakeholders are the early adopters, or where do the people who have the greatest pain exist? Is it in this environment, that role, or that role? The early adopters are going to be key because they're the ones who are going to be first to test your idea. You want to identify if there are any critical regulatory issues. If there are, those could become showstoppers, so you want to understand them early and figure out how to navigate them. And identify those multiple customer roles, as well as make your hypotheses about what they care about so you can go test that. And certainly you want to understand the alternatives. How do they do the problem or solve the problem today? And what other alternatives are they considering? That will give you competitive intelligence that you need to understand to make sure you're delivering a differentiated solution. Now, in this process, you are not pitching. This isn't to go out and pitch your idea. The goal is for you to listen and to learn. This is a learning journey. So ask questions, really observe. There's 2 reasons to observe, because you will actually see people demonstrate how they do things, and they might not see something you see. You might see them take 3 steps to get to an outcome, and you can imagine a way to do it in 1 step. That's one reason for observing. The other is to observe the intensity. What do they get most animated about? You can tell what matters most by the level of animation in their responses. So start with open-ended, broad questions, not specific, narrow, closed-ended questions. Tell me about how you complete this process today. Start open-ended. Let them start to tell you on a broad basis. what they do and how they do it. Then start to zoom in. Well, what happens if? And you might say, well, who else gets involved here? Do you have any interdependencies? So you're exploring, but you're starting broad and you're going more narrow over time, not the other way around. In essence, you're helping yourself and your interviewees learn more about or become at least conscious of the problems and pains that they're experiencing in the process today, so we can all think about improvement together. You're not here to push your idea or your proposed solution. So who do you speak with first? Well, you want to start with real customers that represent the type of people you expect to serve. It's easy to say, well, I'll talk to my friends, or I'll talk to my family. But if your family and friends aren't people who would be real customers for the product you're developing, they aren't a particularly good place other than to practice once or twice. So you want to figure out who feels this pain the most. You might not know that, but you make a hypothesis and you test. And you want to make sure that whoever you talk to can confirm or refute your hypotheses. They have enough knowledge and experience with the problem or the issue, like anaphylaxis. They have experience with it as a patient or as a physician or as an insurer, and they can speak to their experience so that they can give you evidence that either confirms or refutes your assumptions. And again, be sure to talk to all the different stakeholders and customer roles, because while there will be overlap potentially in their interests, there will also be some unique needs and interests of each. And you're really trying to identify through this the early adopters. Who are the people who are most hungry for a better solution? Because those are the ones who are most likely to actually buy what you have to offer if it meets their needs. And where do you start? Well, it's fine, as I mentioned, to start with people you know, especially friends and family, for a little practice run. But beyond that, use your network to say who is actually knows or is one of these customers that actually has this kind of problem. And start with those referrals. Someone can refer you to, or I know someone who has experience with this, and let those referrals build. With each interview, you want to end by asking, who else should I talk to? Because people who have experience in this space will have knowledge of other people who have both experience and some real passion about the topic that you're interested in. So cast a broader net to get started, and then you'll start to see, these are the people who have the greatest pain. And then zoom in a little bit more and do more interviews there. Other ways to expand and go where the fish are include asking people for referrals. Who else should I talk to? Going to a conference. If there's a conference that's either a technical or industry conference that's right in the area you're interested in, that will be a captive group of professionals who have a lot of interest and experience in the field. You can talk to a lot of people in a very short period of time. And occasionally, you know a company or an individual that would have special interest. It's perfectly okay to call them directly. So how do you go about making that initial contact? It's ideal if you can have a face-to-face meeting. That's not always practical. Sometimes you'll have to have a virtual connection, either via the phone or preferably via Google Hangout or Zoom or some visual platform, because you want to not only hear the customer, you want to see the customer. You want to be able to read the nonverbals as well as the verbal cues. And ideally, do this in pairs. If you can have someone go along with you, 2 sets of listening ears and observing eyes are better than 1, and that would allow both of you to listen, but one of you to take really good notes while the other guides the conversation. And the way to get started is to send a short introductory email that is about seeking advice. You aren't here to sell. You're not here to pitch an idea. You're to seek advice from someone who has is an expert or has experience in the area that you're interested in. So for example, you might say, I'm a researcher at the University of Minnesota. The researcher at the university is a great card to play. Most people want to help students and faculty advance their research. I'd like to learn more about how you, whatever it is you're doing, that's a simple way to make the request, and only request 30 minutes. Don't request more than that. If it turns out there's more to talk about, you'll both agree on that, and you can schedule a follow-up. Allow them to direct you to another person, because sometimes you've landed on somebody who isn't the right person, but they will know who is. Don't take too much of their time. Instead say, would you be willing to introduce me to the colleague that you think would have more information? And be polite but persistent. Some of these requests require some follow-up, so you want to be both persistent and polite. And to prepare for this set of interactions, you want to develop an outline but not a script. You don't want to be too scripted, but you generally want to know what are the first big broad questions, and then how do you start to narrow those? What are the general categories that you want to explore? and start with the context. I'm studying anaphylaxis and why it is that so many people who are at risk for severe allergies don't carry a EpiPen or other autoinjector today. Tell them the problem that you're interested in, and do you have any experience with this? Be broad and open and let them tell you where their interest and experience is, and then follow that trail. Explore what they do. Explore the implications, but really get to know them through asking questions, taking notes, and listening carefully. You will find some real nuggets in that. And then when you end, again, seek referrals. Who else should I talk to that might be able to add some important perspective? Now, we've just covered very quickly a few of the principles. If you want some more guidance, a really good resource is the PDF book, Talking to Humans. It's available on the Canvas site. You can also download it through Google for free. And it's a great book to give you more specific guidance on how to do primary or qualitative research, how to go do these interviews and observations, and then how to take the data and recognize the patterns. So let's end with a few words of wisdom from Steve Jobs. New ideas come from watching something, talking to people, experimenting, asking questions, and getting out of the office, not from sitting in the lab and guessing. So now it's your chance to get out of the building.